Alright, we are underway here for the first practice session of the weekend. Alright, practice is officially underway here, cars heading out onto the circuit.
This first phase is all about getting temperature in the tires, getting a feel for the track surface after any changes.
Josh Mitchell out on track now, still to set his first time lap of the session.
Just feeling out the car, checking everything is working as it should be before pushing harder.
Sten Wallstrom heading down the Gardner Straight now, getting his installation lap completed. Still waiting for Josh Mitchell to push the time on the board in this practice session. Sten Wallstrom navigating the challenging Haste section, still on his outlap. Sten Wallstrom through Haste again, looking to start a timed lap shortly. Sten Wallstrom now into the MG complex, bringing the car around. Greg Sabo joining the action now, seen here in the MG section of the circuit. Josh Mitchell now coming through the southern loop section, still circulating without a recorded time.
That southern loop really tests the car's balance and tire grip this early in a session. You feel everything.
Sten Wallstrom is back in the Haste section, continuing his early running. Josh Mitchell finishing his out lap now, heading down the main straight. Sten Wallstrom lays down the first time lap, a 1:46.199, putting him into P1 as he navigates Siberia. Josh Mitchell back in Haste, still circulating, yet to put a time on the board.
Haste is a really fast, committed corner. You learn a lot about the car's high-speed stability through there in practice.
Jasper Greenwood now appearing in the Haste section, still on his installation phase.
Getting through Haste requires real confidence early on. You're just building that feel for the grip limit there.
Sten Wallstrom completes another lap, still holding P1 with that 1:46.199. Jasper Greenwood is navigating the southern loop, still no time set for him. Greg Sabo is in the southern loop now, also yet to register a lap time. And Josh Mitchell goes fastest, a 1:45.743, putting him into P1 as he comes through Doohan corner.
That's a solid first-timed lap. Getting straight to the pace shows good confidence in the car setup early on.
Jasper Greenwood circulating through the southern loop, still looking for his first-time lap. Ryan Lim is the latest driver we've seen in the southern loop, yet to set a time.
That southern loop requires precise throttle application. It's easy to lose time there if you're not careful early on.
Greg Sabo through Stoner corner, still building up to his first flying lap. Sten Wallstrom completing another lap, P2 for him currently with that 146.199.
They'll be working through their planned test items now, perhaps aero runs or brake checks.
And Josh Mitchell goes even faster, a 1:45.554 takes him back to P1 as he heads through Lukey Heights.
That's a really quick time this early in practice. He's found significant pace on that last lap.
Sten Wallstrom comes through Lukey Heights, holding P2 at the moment. Ryan Lim posts his first time, a 1:48.445, putting him into P3 as he rounds Lukey Heights. Greg Sabo is still circulating, yet to put a time on the board, seen here at Lukey Heights. Chris Stokes is out on track now, making his way through turn 11.
Getting turn 11 right is crucial before the final corner onto the main straight. Car needs to be settled.
Josh Mitchell continues to improve, a 1:45.163 extends his lead at the top, seen here through Doohan Corner.
He's really on it early in this session. Finding that much time on a second or third lap takes confidence and precision.
Jimmy Lindo is now out on track, navigating turn 7. Jasper Greenwood posts his first time, a 3:16.910 puts him into P4, seen in the Honda section.
That looks like an installation lap time, or maybe he hit traffic. Definitely not representative pace.
And Jimmy Lindo slots straight into P2 on his first flying lap, a 1:45.296, navigating the southern loop.
Now that's impressive. To come out and immediately be within a tenth and a half of the fastest time shows real intent.
Sten Wallstrom improves his time to a 1:45.934, moving up to P3 as he crosses the line. Ryan Lim improves his lap time to a 1:47.992, currently P6.
Just chipping away at the lap time there. Finding those small gains on each run is what practice is for.
Mac McFarquhar is P5 with a 1:46.360, seen here through Doohan Corner. Josh Mitchell continues to lead the way in practice, still holding P1 in the southern loop. Chris Stokes puts in a strong lap, a 1:45.907, good enough for P4 as he goes through turn 7.
That's a really competitive time for his first flyer. Right in amongst the front runners immediately.
Dominic Fovarg is another driver joining the session, currently in the Siberia section.
Siberia is tricky, especially when the tires are still cool. You need to be patient with the throttle out of there.
Uh-oh, we have a car off. It's Daniel Kosic into the barriers.
Yeah, tough break there. That's a tricky spot if you get it wrong.
Jasper Greenwood is P8 currently with that earlier 3:16 lap, seen here in haste. Chris Stokes goes fastest. A 1:44.986 puts him P1 through Stoner Corner. Jasper Greenwood is P9 with that early 3:16 time, now in Swan Corner. Mac McFarquhar remains P8 with his 1:46.360, seen in the MG section.
The MG complex is really flowing. You carry a lot of speed through there if the car is well balanced.
Ryan Lim is P9 at the moment with a 1:47.992, now in the southern loop. Chris Stokes finds more time, a 1:44.693 puts him firmly in P1 now. Ryan Lim currently P10 with his 1:47.992, navigating turn 11.
Turn 11 is a fast approach. You need to be brave on the brakes and committed to the turn-in.
Josh Mitchell is down to P3 now, his best a 1:45.163, seen coming through Lukey Heights.
The track is gripping up now, times are naturally getting faster. He'll need to respond to stay at the front.
Daniel Kosic is currently P5 with a 1:45.337, navigating the Siberia section.
That's a competitive time, putting him right in the mix in the top half.
Contact. Josh Mitchell is off the circuit and into the barriers.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Easy to get caught out there if you push just a little too hard.
Jimmy Lindo is currently P4 with his 1:45.296, navigating Lukey Heights.
Still a good time, keeping him right there within striking distance of the top three.
Jareth Hallam slots into P2 with a 1:44.810, seen here in Swan Corner.
That's a great lap. He's really hooking it up for that final sector.
Ryan Lim remains P10 with his 1:47.992 lap, coming through turn 11. Jareth Hallam is P2 with that 144.810, seen now in the Honda section.
That Honda hairpin is really slow compared to the rest of the lap. It's crucial to get a good exit for the run to turn 7.
Ryan Lim is currently P10 with a 147.992, seen here in the Honda section. Greg Sabo puts a time on the board, a 145.525, which puts him into P7. Ryan Lim crosses the line, still P10 with his 147.992. Dominic Fovard registers his first time lap, a 145.485, good for P6. Daniel Kochish remains P5 with his 145.337, navigating the MG complex. Josh Mitchell's earlier 145.163 now puts him in P4.
Other drivers are finding pace as the session goes on, naturally pushing times down the order.
Jimmy Lindo improves. A 144.904 moves him up to P3, seen in Siberia. Josh Mitchell crosses the line, still P4 with his 145.163. Phil Bodkin is out on track now, making his way through the Siberia section. Josh Mitchell remains P4 with his best time of 1:45.163, currently in the Honda section. We see Greg Sabo has made contact with the barriers. Chris Stokes still leads the way in practice, holding P1 with that 1:44.693.
That time is holding up well as others continue to lap. He's in a strong position right now.
Phil Bodkin crosses the line, still yet to register a time lap.
He's probably doing a longer run or checking car behavior with different fuel loads or settings.
Jimmy Lindo is P3 with his 1:44.904, seen here in turn 7. Mac McFarquhar improves his time to a 1:46.340, now P9, seen in the Honda section. Chris Stokes completes another lap, still P1 with the fastest time of the session. Mac McFarquhar is in the MG complex, still P9.
Consistency is key in practice. Lapping reliably allows the team to gather valuable data.
Another incident for Josh Mitchell, off the track and into the barriers again. Mac McFarquhar improves again, a 1:46.116 moves him up to P9 as he crosses the line. Ryan Lim is currently P11 with his 1:47.992.
Still plenty of time left in the session for drivers to find improvements.
Josh Mitchell completes another lap, holding P4 with his previous best. Greg Sabo is P7 with a 1:45.525, seen navigating turn 11.
Getting a good exit out of turn 12 is vital for lap time here. It's easy to slide wide and lose momentum.
We have contact on track between Elliot Norton and Mac McFarquhar. Elliot Norton is stopped out there following that contact. No time lap yet from him.
Yeah, any time lost due to an incident really impacts your ability to get into a rhythm and post a representative time.
Ryan Lim holds P11 with his 147.992.
They'll be looking to make the most of the remaining minutes now.
Daniel Kochish is P5 with a 145.337, seen here in turn 7. Tim Weller is out on track, yet to register a time, seen at Lukey Heights.
Lukey Heights is a big compression before the corner. You really feel the G-forces there.
Another off for Josh Mitchell, into the barriers again. Phil Botkin posts his first time lap, a 146.326, good for P10. Daniel Kochish remains P5 with his 145.337 lap, navigating Stoner Corner.
Stoner is taken at high speed. You need absolute confidence in the front end grip through there.
Jimmy Lindo is P3 with his 144.904, seen in Siberia. Tim Weller continues his running, still no time lap, seen in haste. Chris Stokes still holds the top spot, circulating in the MG complex. Phil Botkin is P12 with his 146.326, navigating Doohan Corner.
Doohan Corner is fast, you carry a lot of speed in. Crucial to get a good line through the apex.
Josh Mitchell is still P4 with his best time of 145.163, seen here on the Gardner Straight.
He's holding that position for now, but others might be looking for late improvements.
Jimmy Lindo crosses the line, remaining P3 with his 144.904. Daniel Kochish improves his time to a 145.295, now P8, seen in the Honda section. Jareth Hallam remains P3 with his 144.810, seen in haste. David Constable Barry is P7 with his time of 145.232, seen at Lukey Heights. Ryan Lim improves his time to a 147.045, currently P15.
He's found nearly a second on that last lap. Every little bit helps in practice.
Elliot Norton puts in a quick lap, a 144.902 puts him up to P5. Jareth Hallam improves his time to a 144.707, moving up to P3, seen at Lukey Heights. Elliot Norton is P5 with his 144.902, seen in Swan Corner. Jimmy Lindo goes fastest, a 144.609 puts him into P1 as he navigates turn 11.
That's a great lap time. Getting that section right before the main straight is crucial for stringing together a flyer.
Tim Weller posts his first representative lap, a 144.886, good for P5, seen in the Honda section. Elliot Norton is currently P6 with his 144.902, seen in Siberia. Tim Weller crosses the line, staying P5 with his 144.886.
Drivers will be pushing for final improvements now as the clock winds down.
Dominic Fovarg improves his time to a 145.379, now P11, seen in turn 11. Looks like contact between Chris Stokes and Elliot Norton out on track. Chris Stokes is still P2 with his earlier time of 144.693, navigating Siberia.
He was involved in that contact, so he might be heading back to the garage to check the car.
Tim Weller is P5 with his 144.886, seen in the MG section.
The MG complex is deceptively quick. You need to brake just right for the entry and carry speed through the corners.
Jimmy Lindo remains P1, leading the session as he goes through the MG complex. We have an incident to report, contact between Jimmy Lindo and Elliot Norton.
Looks like they tangled there. That's a tough break for both of them.
Phil Bodkin improves significantly, a 145.105 moves him up to P7. Dominic Fovarg is P11 with his 145.379, seen here at Lukey Heights.
Not much time left now for drivers who want to improve their position.
Tim Weller improves his time to a 144.861, holding P5, seen in the Honda section.
That's a good little gain there. Every 10th counts, even in practice.
Jimmy Lindo still sits at the top of the timings, seen in Siberia.
Despite that contact, his earlier time still holds as the benchmark.
Mac McFarquhar improves his time to a 145.053, now P7. Martin Moll is currently P13 with a 145.496, seen in the Honda section. Phil Bodkin holds P8 with his 145.105 as the session nears its end. More contact out on track, this time involving Jimmy Lindo and Sten Wallstrom.
They've tangled there. That's really disruptive, especially with so little time left.
Bart van de Sande is out on track in the Honda section, still yet to set a time with seconds ticking away.
Very little time left now. If they haven't set a time, this will just be a systems check or maybe a practice start.
And it's more contact, Elliot Norton and Jimmy Lindo involved again.
Yeah, they've come together there. Not ideal at this stage of the session.
Jimmy Lindo remains P2 with his 144.609, seen in turn 11. Phil Bodkin is P9 with his 145.105 as we count down the final seconds. Mac McFarquhar improves to a 144.853, putting him P7 as we see him at Lukey Heights.
That's a crucial improvement with only seconds left on the clock.
Bart van de Sande is currently in the Siberia section, yet to set a time lap with just over a minute left.
Siberia is a place where tire temperature is really tested. With this little time left, you're just trying to get one last quick lap in.
Sten Wallstrom is off the track, into the barriers.
Yeah, looks like they just got caught out there.
Sten Wallstrom is currently P15 with his 145.934, seen here on the Gardner Straight. Bart van de Sande is on the Gardner Straight, still without a registered lap time as the session winds down. Alright, the lights are about to go green here at Phillip Island. Qualifying is moments away.
It's a fantastic circuit, demanding commitment, especially through the faster corners.
Greg Sabo is the first driver out on track, heading down the Gardner Straight now, still waiting to set his initial time. Sabo continues down the Gardner Straight, yet to register a lap time with 4 minutes 31 remaining. Martin Mull is also out on track now, entering the southern loop, looking to get his qualifying run started. Jimmy Lindo is navigating the Honda corner, still searching for his first time lap as we approach the final 4 minutes. Dominic Fovarg is currently in the southern loop, no time on the board yet with 3.5 minutes left in the session. Daniel Kochish is on the Gardner Straight, still needing to set a time with just over 3 minutes left on the clock.
This is where the pressure really builds. Getting a clean lap in these final moments is crucial. I remember those intense final minutes clearly.
We have an incident involving Jasper Greenwood and Mac McFarquhar. They've made contact. Daniel Kochish is now through Siberia, still needing to post a time with 2 minutes 15 remaining in qualifying.
Siberia is a tricky one. You need to get the entry speed just right to carry momentum onto the back straight. That's essential for a quick lap.
Daniel Kochish crosses the line and immediately goes P1, a 1:44.705, a strong first lap. Neil Constable Barry is currently P3 but is flying down the Gardner Straight, already a tenth quicker than his best time. Bart Van de Sande is also improving, P6 right now but gaining time on his best lap heading into the closing minute.
Getting the toe down the straight can make a real difference, especially when you're pushing for those final fractions of a second.
Ryan Lim still needs to set a time, heading down the Gardner Straight now with less than 50 seconds remaining.
This is a tense moment, you have to get a lap in, it's all about focusing on executing a clean run.
Sten Wallstrom is also out on track, needing to complete a lap, currently on the Gardner Straight. Daniel Kochish is currently P1 but is significantly faster than his best lap through Siberia with just 27 seconds left. Chris Stokes is in T7, needing to set a time quickly with only 19 seconds remaining in qualifying. Daniel Kochish is P1 but gaining time at Lukey Heights, only 3 seconds left on the clock. Chris Stokes is in T11, desperately needing to get this lap finished and set a time with only 8 seconds remaining.
This is the final opportunity. You have to be pushing but staying clean to get a lap on the board before the flag.
Chris Stokes crosses the line and takes P1. A 1:44.299 puts him at the top with time ticking away.
That's a fantastic lap under pressure. Getting it done right at the death of the session shows real focus.
Jimmy Lindo is P2 with a 1:44.618, but currently a second off that pace on his latest lap down the Gardner Straight. Tim Weller is holding P8 with a 1:45.014, starting a new lap now down the Gardner Straight.
Every lap counts now, trying to find that extra tenth or two, especially on the straight, it all adds up.
Joel Lemrick is in P14 with a 1:45.889, currently a tenth and a half slower on his latest effort.
Sometimes you just don't hook up the perfect lap. Even if you feel fast, small mistakes early on can cost you by the end of the straight.
We've seen an incident for Joel Lemrick. He's made contact with the barriers. Josh Mitchell is P11, but looks to have had a moment. His delta is 5 seconds slower through the southern loop.
That's a big loss of time. Something has clearly happened there. Maybe a lockup or ran wide.
Ryan Lim is in P19, but is showing good pace on this lap, over 3/10 faster through the southern loop.
Finding time in the southern loop is key to a good lap. It's a fast entry and you need confidence to carry the speed.
The grid is formed here at the breathtaking Phillip Island circuit, conditions looking tricky with that 13-knot wind gusting across the track.
That wind is going to play a big role through the fast corners. Carrying a lot of speed into turn 1 will be a real challenge today. I felt that myself.
And it's Chris Stokes, the Englishman, who takes pole position for this race in his Mini Cooper JCW challenge car, starting from the front in the Pro-Am class. Starting alongside Stokes is Jimmy Lindo, the AM class driver in another Mini Cooper, lining up in second place on the grid. On the second row, we have Jareth Hallam, another British driver, starting from third position in his AM class entry. The second row is completed by Neil Constable Barry, another AM class driver, lining up in fourth position.
From P4, you're in a good position to watch the action unfold ahead into the first corner, but you need to be ready to react quickly yourself.
Daniel Kosic is in fifth position on the grid, the Hungarian driver in his AM class Mini Cooper.
Starting from P5 puts you right in the middle of the pack heading into turn 1. It's all about managing risk and opportunity there.
Elliot Norton starts from 6th place, another Pro-Am class driver in the field.
Being a Pro-Am driver starting 6th means you've got some quick-em guys around you. Managing the first lap will be crucial.
Martin Mol starts from 8th position, the Dutch driver and a Pro class entrant in this race.
For a pro driver, starting back in 8th means they'll have work to do early on, finding gaps and making progress through the pack.
Tim Weller lines up in 9th position on the grid, an AM class driver from the United Kingdom. David Constable Barry is in 10th place, the second driver with that surname in the field, starting in the Pro-Am class. Josh Mitchell starts just outside the top 10 in 11th position, the Italian driver competing in the AM class. In 12th place, we find Greg Sabo, another Italian driver in the AM class. Dominic Fovarg is 13th on the grid, the Pro-Am driver from the UK.
Starting P13, you're surrounded by other cars. Spatially aware is key, especially into the first corner.
Phil Bodkin starts from 14th position on the grid, another AM class driver from England.
Back in the pack, you get caught up in the aero wash and general chaos. Finding clean air is important when you can.
Joel Lemrick is in 15th place on the grid, the Italian driver in his AM class entry. In 16th position, we have John Boontakis, the driver from Greece in the AM class. Jasper Greenwood starts from 17th on the grid. And the lights are out, we are green and underway at Phillip Island. Chris Stokes gets away well from pole position and holds the lead as they stream into turn 1. We have an incident, Ryan Lim off the track and into the barriers.
That's a significant impact with the wall there. You feel that right through the car.
Further back, Joel Lemrick making up places on this opening lap, climbing to 13th.
Making up spots early in the race is tough. Good work from Joel Lemrick gaining 2 places to P13 on this opening lap.
We have contact between David Constable Barry and Tim Weller. They've come together on track. Greg Sabo making a move up the order, gaining 4 positions to 8th on this opening lap. A fantastic opening lap from Greg Sabo, up 4 positions already, climbing into 8th place.
Making that many places on lap 1 means you've judged the chaos perfectly. You have to be aggressive but smart in the pack.
We've got contact between Bart Van de Sande and Neil Constable Barry. They've made impact on track.
Even at those speeds, contact can cause damage and upset the car. It disrupts your race.
Phil Bodkin also making progress early on, up to 11th from 14th.
3 spots gained on the first lap. That's good clean driving through the traffic.
Phil Bodkin remains in 11th position, now battling closely with Joel Lemrick just ahead.
Joel Lemerick has really pushed on since we last saw him, getting ahead of Bodkin and into 10th now. That's good pace.
Focusing now on David Constable Barry in 14th, right on the tail of Jasper Greenwood, just ahead for 13th position. We've had contact further down the field, Dominic Fobart and Joel Lemerick coming together.
That was a relatively low-speed impact, but enough to disrupt both drivers.
Now looking at Tim Weller in 16th position, in a close fight with Sten Wallstrom just a tenth of a second ahead. Tim Weller has made the move. He's passed Sten Wallstrom and is now up to 15th, pulling a slight gap of 4 tenths. Well, this opening lap has certainly not been quiet, a few incidents already breaking up the field.
Lap 1 is always the most hectic. Everyone is trying to gain positions and the cars are full of fuel. It's a tight squeeze.
We've seen some drivers make fantastic progress, like Greg Sabo charging up the order from 12th.
That kind of move requires bravery and precise placement. You have to commit but leave just enough room. I learned that the hard way sometimes.
And the wind seems to be playing its part. You can see cars twitching through the faster sections.
Oh, absolutely. Carrying speed through those corners with a tailwind or a crosswind is incredibly unstable. You're constantly making micro corrections just to stay on the black stuff.
Now focusing on Martin Knoll in 6th, currently navigating Swan Corner and closing on Bart van de Sande for 5th position. Contact between Martin Knoll and Bart van de Sande, coming together on track.
Despite that earlier contact, Martin Knoll is pushing hard in 6th, setting his best lap and ride on the gearbox of Bart van de Sande for 5th. That's quick pace.
Martin Knoll remains in 6th position. The gap to Bart van de Sande in 5th has opened up slightly to 2 tenths.
Sometimes getting right on someone's bumper isn't enough. You need that perfect opportunity or mistake from the car ahead to make the pass happen.
Now we're riding on board with Josh Mitchell in 17th, right on the tail of Neil Constable Barry for 16th through Stoner Corner, just a tenth between them. Josh Mitchell makes the move. He's got past Neil Constable Barry and is now up to 16th position.
That's a good pass executed there, getting the move done and immediately trying to break the toe to open the gap.
Further ahead, John Boontakis is challenging Sten Wallstrom for 14th place. The gap is just a tenth of a second.
Another tight battle developing here. That close nose to tail racing requires absolute focus. One small mistake and you're losing a position.
John Boontakis takes the position. He's moved up to 14th, Sten Wallstrom now right behind him, almost bumper to bumper. Neil Constable Barry is now in 17th position, just a tenth of a second behind Josh Mitchell ahead for 16th. Another incident involving Bart van de Sande and Martin Knoll. They've made contact again. Phil Bodkin is into the top 10 now, running in 10th place and right on the bumper of Jasper Greenwood for 9th as they head down the Gardner Straight.
Being this close on the main straight is exactly where you want to be if you're Phil Bodkin, getting the toe and looking for an opportunity at the end.
Oh, a positional change there. Phil Bodkin has dropped back to 11th. The gap to Jasper Greenwood ahead is now half a second. Plenty of action unfolding throughout the field, not just at the front, with drivers fighting for every single position.
These midfield battles are intense. It's not just about speed, it's about managing the car, your tires, and anticipating what the driver ahead or behind is going to do.
We've seen several instances of contact today, fortunately mostly minor so far.
Even slight touches can knock the steering out or cause aero damage you don't immediately notice. It can make the rest of your race much harder.
It feels like some drivers are finding their rhythm now after that busy opening lap.
Definitely, once things settle slightly, you start to see the true pace emerge and drivers finding their preferred lines and braking points.
We have contact between Jasper Greenwood and Tim Weller, coming together in the midfield. Now we focus on Daniel Kosic in 11th position, closing right up to Jasper Greenwood for 10th. Daniel Kosic has made the pass. He's moved into 10th position, getting ahead of Jasper Greenwood.
Good move by Kosic there, capitalizing on the opportunity and gaining a place, essential in these sprint races.
Now watching Bart van de Sande in 5th place, just 0.3 of a second behind Martin Mol ahead for 4th.
With only a few minutes left, every 10th counts now. You have to be ready to seize any chance to make up that gap.
Contact between Jimmy Lindo and Elliot Norton. They've come together on track.
Just a slight brush there, but it can be unsettling at speed.
Neil Constable Barry is up to 15th now and challenging John Boutakis closely for 14th place. Neil Constable Barry makes the move. He's into 14th, now chasing down John Boutakis ahead. Neil Constable Barry continues his charge. He's past John Boutakis and into 13th place.
That was a well-executed pass, gaining another position there. Good work.
We've had contact between Jasper Greenwood and David Constable Barry. They've come together. Bart van de Sande is now up to 4th place, just a 10th of a second behind Jimmy Lindo for 3rd as they navigate Lukey Heights.
That is incredibly close through one of the trickiest sections. You're trying to carry speed but also set up the run onto the straight, a real test.
Contact further back, John Boutakis and Greg Sabo have made impact. Jareth Hallam is down in 16th position, right on the tail of Greg Sabo for 15th, only a 10th separating them. A change in position for Jareth Hallam. He's dropped back to 17th but remains very close to Greg Sabo just ahead. We're into the final few minutes here and the intensity hasn't dropped off. There's still battles raging all the way down the field.
Even when you drop a position or have a slight contact, you can't let it phase you. You have to reset and focus on the next corner, next lap.
We've certainly seen drivers losing and then regaining positions throughout this race. It's been quite dynamic.
That's the nature of these close races. Sometimes you make a move, sometimes you get past. The key is not giving up and looking for the next chance.
The wind conditions we mentioned at the start still seem to be a factor out there.
They really are. Coming onto the main straight or through the faster S's, you feel those gusts trying to push the car around. It adds another layer of difficulty that isn't always obvious to the spectator.
Phil Bodkin is in 12th place, battling with Daniel Kosic ahead for 11th, just 0.2 between them. Phil Bodkin remains in 12th. The gap to Daniel Kosic has grown slightly to 0.4.
That extra couple of tenths can feel like a mile when you're trying to close in for a pass. It requires consistent strong corners to bridge that gap.
With only a couple of minutes left plus the final lap, drivers will be pushing harder than ever now.
This is where fitness and focus really pay off. You've been driving at the limit for a while, but you need to find that little bit extra for the closing stages.
We've seen some impressive fightbacks from drivers who had incidents early on.
That shows real mental strength, not letting a small mistake or contact ruin your race, just putting your head down and getting back to work. I admire that in a driver.
The lead hasn't really been challenged much since the start. Stokes has done a good job out front.
Controlling a race from the front looks easy, but it's demanding. You have to manage your pace, your tires, and any potential pressure from behind, especially with variable conditions like today.
Bart van de Sande is in 4th position. The gap to 3rd place Jimmy Lindo is now 0.6 of a second. Bart van de Sande continues to hold 4th. The gap to Jimmy Lindo ahead remains around 0.6.
He's trying to maintain the pressure, but that half-second barrier can be tricky to break down lap after lap. You need to be consistently faster or hope for an error from the car ahead.
Bart van de Sande has made the move. He's taken 3rd position from Jimmy Lindo and look at that gap open up. It's over a second and a half now. Phil Bodkin is now in 11th place and closing rapidly on Daniel Kosic for 10th position. The gap is just a 10th.
That's the kind of closing speed you need at this stage of the race, getting right on the bumper before the end of the lap.
Contact between Daniel Kosic and Phil Bodkin. They've come together on track. Neil Constable Barry is in 13th place now, closing right up behind Jasper Greenwood in the haste for 12th, just a tenth separating them. Neil Constable Barry makes the move, he's into 12th position, just getting ahead of Jasper Greenwood.
Another great pass from Constable Barry, finding the space and making it stick, right on the edge.
A quick change back there, Jasper Greenwood has regained 12th position, Neil Constable Barry now chasing again. We have contact between Martin Hull and Joel Lemrick. Neil Constable Barry is still in 13th, chasing Jasper Greenwood in 12th, that gap remains at 2 tenths. Neil Constable Barry takes the position back. He's into 12th, Jasper Greenwood is now right behind him. We're really heading towards the sharp end of this race now, and the action is still just as intense.
This is where the pressure really mounts. Everyone knows time is running out to make a move. You can feel it even from here.
We've seen some incredible battles and overtaking throughout the field today.
Finding that gap and making the pass stick requires commitment and confidence. It's a skill that takes practice.
It's fascinating to see how the different classes are performing relative to each other.
The AM drivers are really showing they can race wheel to wheel with the pros and pro-ams. The parity in these cars allows for great competition.
Still a few minutes left on the clock, plus that crucial final lap.
That means the final lap is going to be absolutely critical. Everyone will be positioning themselves for one last charge.
We've had some unfortunate incidents, but drivers seem to be recovering and getting back into the fight.
That's the racer's mentality. You put it behind you immediately and focus on getting the car forward again. I've been there myself.
Phillip Island is certainly living up to its reputation for dramatic racing today.
This circuit rewards bravery but also punishes mistakes, especially in these conditions. You're always on edge here.
Chris Stokes continues to lead comfortably as the race approaches the finish, holding over a second advantage back to Elliot Norton. We have an incident further back. Jasper Greenwood and Mac McFarquhar have made contact.
That's unfortunate contact in the closing stages of the race there.
And Chris Stokes takes the checkered flag, a dominant performance from pole position to win here at Phillip Island. Elliot Norton crosses the line to take a strong second place, a great drive coming from 6th on the grid.
Moving from 6th to 2nd in this field is a fantastic result. Norton drove a smart race picking his way through.
Bart van de Sande finishes in 3rd position, rounding out the podium finishers today.
A great fight-back drive for van de Sande after some earlier contact, shows determination to get onto the podium.
Rounding out the top 7, we have Martin Knoll in 4th, Tim Weller in 5th, Joel Lemrick in 6th, and David Constable Barry finishing in 7th position. Further back, Jimmy Lindo comes home in 8th, Daniel Koshich 9th, Phil Botkin in 10th, and Neil Constable Barry finishes in 11th. And finishing up the field, Mac McFarquhar in 12th, Jasper Greenwood in 13th, Dominic Fovarg in 14th, and John Boontakas in 15th.
Some tough races out there for some drivers with that contact, but everyone pushing to the line.
Alright, everyone, the grid is formed here at Phillip Island and the tension is absolutely palpable as we await the start.
It always feels like an age waiting for those lights to go out, and this wind will certainly be a factor heading down the main straight into turn 1.
It's Elliot Norton, the Pro-Am driver from the UK, who lines up in pole position for this race. An impressive start to the weekend.
Being P1 on the grid always feels different. It's the best place to be, but you feel
Here we are at the stunning Phillip Island circuit, anticipation building on the grid.
that breeze at 11 knots is certainly going to be a factor through some of the faster corners out there.
Greg Sabo lines up in 2nd place, the AM-class driver doing a fantastic job to put his Mini on the front row. It's Ryan Lim from Malaysia on pole position today, another AM-class driver starting from the very front. Welcome everyone to Phillip Island, a bit breezy out there today with winds around 11 knots. On pole position today, the Malaysian driver Ryan Lim in his Mini Cooper JCW Challenge. Lining up alongside him in second is Greg Sabo from Italy.
Starting P2 here can be tricky, you have to be careful with the slipstream into turn 1.
Rounding out the top three, Jareth Hallam from the United Kingdom. And the lights are out, we are go at Phillip Island. Ryan Lim gets a clean getaway and holds onto the lead through the first corner. We have an incident further back, contact between Dominic Fobarg and Jasper Greenwood. A great start for Jareth Hallam, he's already up into second place. Jareth Hallam makes a move and is now running in second position. Oh, contact between Greg Sabo and Jareth Hallam.
That corner can be really tricky, it's easy to get caught out when you're fighting for position.
Dominic Fobarg has lost ground early, dropping back to 12th.
First laps are always chaotic, sometimes you lose places but the key is to regroup and focus forward.
Dominic Fobarg has lost ground early, dropping back to 12th. More contact on track, this time involving Neil Constable-Barry and Joel Lemrick.
Even a small hit at speed can really upset the balance of the car and compromise your race.
Mac McFarquhar drops back slightly, now running in 10th. Mac McFarquhar is holding on to 10th place, just half a second behind Martin Mole ahead.
That half-second gap is right on the edge, you can get pulled along by the car in front but it's tough to make a pass from there.
A big change for Mac McFarquhar, he's dropped all the way back to 17th, now over 12 seconds behind Martin Mole who is up to 8th.
Something must have happened there, losing that many positions and that much time in one lap is a major setback.
Contact on track again, this time Phil Bodkin is involved with Elliot Norton.
Even a minor coming together can throw you off your rhythm for the rest of the lap.
We're riding on board now with Tim Weller, currently running in 13th place, just a tenth of a second behind Bart van de Sande as we navigate this first lap with 9 minutes plus 1 lap remaining.
That's a really tight gap, right in the slipstream. It's tough in the pack on the first lap, you have to be patient but also look for opportunities.
A position change for Tim Weller, he's moved up to 12th now, getting ahead of Bart van de Sande by 2 tenths.
Getting clear air even by a couple of tenths makes a difference, especially when you've been right behind someone in the pack.
Trouble for Tim Weller and Bart van de Sande, they've made contact.
You never want to see that, even a glancing blow can really upset the car's handling.
Following Chris Stokes now in 9th place through Lukey Heights, just 2 tenths back from Elliot Norton ahead.
Lukey Heights is a critical point on the lap, carrying speed through here is key to the run onto the straight, and a 2-tenth gap is nothing at this stage.
Chris Stokes has dropped 1 spot to 10th, while Elliot Norton has fallen well back behind him now, over a second adrift. Another incident to report, Chris Stokes and Tim Weller have made contact.
Even glancing contact at that speed can affect the car's handling and stability.
We're following Jimmy Lindo on Gardner Straight, P14, just a tenth behind Elliot Norton as they start lap 2. Jimmy Lindo has moved up to 13th, still right on the tail of Elliot Norton. Bart van de Sande is in 11th, 2 tenths behind Chris Stokes as they work through lap 2 with 7 minutes left. Bart Van de Sonde gains a position, now P10, still just 2/10 behind Chris Stokes.
These guys are battling hard in the midfield, swapping places but staying right with each other. You have to be so precise when it's that close.
More contact to report, Bart Van de Sonde involved with Elliot Norton. Following Jimmy Lindo in 12th, 3/10 behind Elliot Norton on lap 2. The gap tightens between Jimmy Lindo and Elliot Norton, down to just 2/10 now. Now with Elliot Norton in 11th, just a 10th back from Bart Van de Sonde as they head through lap 2 with 6 minutes on the clock.
When you're this close, you're constantly judging braking points and entry speeds, trying to pressure the car ahead without making a mistake yourself.
Contact between Martin Mole and Joel Emmerich. We join Josh Mitchell in 4th place, coming through Doohan Corner, just 2/10 separating him from Jareth Hallam in 3rd as we're into lap 3 with 6 minutes plus 1 lap remaining.
That's a very small margin at this corner. Getting a good exit is vital to carry speed down the straight and make a move step.
A big change for Josh Mitchell, he's dropped back to 8th, now over 2 seconds behind Jareth Hallam who is running 6th. Josh Mitchell has lost more ground, now in 10th place. The gap to Jareth Hallam in 6th is up to 2.4 seconds. Following Jimmy Lindo in 11th, with Josh Mitchell right on his gearbox in 12th, 0 gap between them on lap 3 with 5 minutes remaining. Contact involving Bart Van de Sonde and Chris Stokes. We're now in Siberia following Tim Weller at 13th place, just a 10th behind Josh Mitchell ahead on lap 3 with 5 minutes plus 1 lap left.
Siberia requires a lot of commitment. Being just a 10th behind means you're right on the edge of the car ahead's performance.
The gap between Tim Weller and Josh Mitchell has stretched slightly, now 2/10.
Even a tiny gap opening up like that means you lose the benefit of the slipstream and it makes it harder to consider a passing move.
More contact on track, Bart Van de Sonde and Elliot Norton involved again.
Even at that speed, making contact like that can really affect your car's handling and alignment.
Tim Weller has moved up to 10th place, 2/10 behind Jimmy Lindo in 9th as they continue on lap 3 with 4 minutes to go. Tim Weller remains in 10th place, still just 2/10 behind Jimmy Lindo.
When the gap stays constant like this, it often means the driver in front is managing the pace well, but the driver behind is pushing hard to stay attached.
Tim Weller gains a spot, now running 9th, 3/10 adrift of Jimmy Lindo in 8th. We join Mac McClarkahar in 16th place on lap 4, 3/10 ahead of Ryan Lim behind him.
Being ahead by just a couple of tenths here means you have to be absolutely perfect. You can't afford any mistakes or the car behind will be right there.
A big change for Mac McClarkahar, he's now down in 17th, while Ryan Lim is up to 16th and the gap between them is over 4 seconds. Certainly been a busy first few laps out there, hasn't it?
Absolutely, this track can really punish even small errors, you have to stay so focused.
We've seen quite a few incidents already, especially in the midfield pack.
That's where the pressure is highest sometimes, everyone is fighting for every inch, you have to be aware of everything around you.
It feels like anyone could still make up ground if they keep it clean now.
Definitely, consistency becomes key now as the race settles down a little, finding that rhythm is everything.
We're with Elliot Norton in 12th place on lap 4, just 3/10 behind John Boontakas in 11th.
3/10 is a good position to be in, close enough to challenge but far enough back to get some clear air if needed.
Elliot Norton is still 12th, the gap to John Boontakas is down to just 2/10. We pick up with Josh Mitchell on lap 5, running in 10th place, 4/10 behind Tim Weller in 9th.
That 4/10 gap gives you a bit of breathing space but you still have to stay focused, you're not quite in tow but you're close enough to chase.
Contact between Jimmy Lindo and Tim Weller. Dominic Faubourg has made great progress, up to 5th and closing on Joel Emmerich. The gap just 0.2 on lap 5. The gap remains 0.2 between Dominic Faubourg and Joel Emmerich. Trouble on track, contact between John Boontakis and Josh Mitchell.
Any contact like that can put you straight into the wall or gravel, even at lower speeds.
We're now following Josh Mitchell in 11th place, 0.4 behind John Boontakis on lap 5.
After that contact, the focus will be on checking the car feels okay and trying to regain some rhythm.
The gap closes slightly for Josh Mitchell to John Boontakis, down to 0.3.
That's better. Closing that gap shows they might be recovering from that earlier contact.
Jareth Hallam is running in 6th on lap 5, half a second behind Dominic Faubourg in 5th. The gap between Jareth Hallam and Dominic Faubourg is down to 0.3 now. Significant contact between Mac McFarquhar and Ryan Lim. We rejoin Jareth Hallam in 6th place, still 0.3 behind Dominic Faubourg as they start lap 6. Jareth Hallam takes the position. He's up to 5th, right on the bumper of Dominic Faubourg, who drops to 6th. They swap back immediately. Dominic Faubourg reclaims 5th, Jareth Hallam just a 10th behind now in 6th.
That's proper close racing. You have to be brave and precise to make those moves stick, and just as quick to defend.
Martin Mull is running 4th, 0.3 behind Joel Emmerich in 3rd place on lap 6. Another incident involving John Boontakis and Josh Mitchell. We're back with Jareth Hallam, still chasing Dominic Faubourg for 5th, the gap now 0.2.
That kind of back and forth battle really pushes both drivers. You have to manage your tires and concentration perfectly.
The gap opens up a little now between Jareth Hallam and Dominic Faubourg, stretching to half a second.
Sometimes you just hit a patch where you can't quite match the pace of the car ahead. You have to consolidate and look for opportunities later.
Martin Mull is right on the gearbox of Joel Emmerich for 3rd place as they hit Gardner Straight, just a 10th between them.
This is the perfect place to challenge. Getting a good run out of the final corner and using that slipstream is crucial.
Martin Mull makes the move. He's up into 3rd place, just ahead of Joel Emmerich. Joel Emmerich fights back immediately, reclaiming 3rd place. Martin Mull still just a 10th behind. Josh Mitchell is in 11th, 0.2 behind John Boontakis as they go through Doohan Corner on lap 7.
Making up ground here is difficult. You have to be perfect on the entry and exit to make up time through this section.
The gap is now 0 between Josh Mitchell and John Boontakis.
That is as close as you can get. They must be absolutely glued together out there. Every twitch of the wheel matters.
Josh Mitchell makes the move and takes 10th place, getting away from John Boontakis by 0.3. David Constable Barry is in 9th, 0.4 back from Elliot Norton in 8th on lap 7.
That's a manageable gap, enough to try and close down but still takes consistent fast laps. The gap shrinks to 0.3 between David Constable Barry and Elliot Norton. He's making good progress. Chipping away at that gap shows real focus and consistent performance.
Here comes Greg Sabo, just 20 seconds from the checkered flag, but Daniel Kosic is absolutely glued to his rear bumper.
This is it, the final push. Being chased down like that is immense pressure. Every single corner has to be perfect.
Greg Sabo takes the checkered flag and wins the race. From 2nd on the grid, a fantastic drive. And Daniel Kosic crosses the line just behind, a brilliant recovery drive to finish 2nd from 12th.
Wow, what a result for him. Coming from P12 to finish on the podium shows incredible pace and racecraft.
Joel Lemrick secures the final podium spot, coming through from 15th. Rounding out the top 7, we have Martin Knoll in 4th, Dominic Fovard 5th, Jareth Hallam 6th, and Tim Weller in 7th.
A strong finish for all those drivers, fighting hard throughout the race to secure solid points.
Further down the order, Elliot Norton finishes 8th, David Constable Barry 9th, John Boudakis 10th, and Josh Mitchell 11th.
Every position counts, battling through the pack for these spots requires real tenacity.
And finishing 12th through 15th are Phil Bodkin, Jimmy Lindo, Chris Stokes, and Bart Van de Sande. Bringing up the rear of the finishers, Mac McFarquhar in 16th and Ryan Lim in 17th. Joel Lemerick yet to register a time in this practice session, currently navigating the southern loop. Ryan Lim similarly without a time on the board, making his way through the southern loop now. Jasper Greenwood on the Gardner Straight, still looking for his first time lap with under 6 minutes remaining.
You've got to get a banker lap in quickly, especially in practice. That straight is a good place to prepare for a flying lap.
Sten Wallstrom navigates the southern loop, yet to put a time on the board with just over 5 minutes left.
That part of the track can really test the car's balance. You might be working on specific setup points there before attempting a full lap.
Phil Bodkin is in the Honda section, still searching for his first time lap with under 4.5 minutes to go. Jareth Hallam on the Gardner Straight, yet to set a timed lap as the clock ticks down towards the final few minutes. Greg Sabo heading down the Gardner Straight, still no time on the board for him yet. Ryan Lim in Swan Corner, yet to post a timed lap with just 3 minutes remaining. Sten Wallstrom still yet to set a timed lap, navigating Siberia with just over 2 minutes on the clock.
That's a commitment corner, Siberia. You need confidence there, especially when you're pushing for a first time late in the session.
Neil Constable Barry in the Loopy Heights section, yet to post a time as practice winds down. Dominic Fovard also without a time, currently up at Lukey Heights with just over a minute remaining.
You're really pushing against the clock now to get a valid lap in. Lukey Heights requires precision before the descent.
Sten Wallstrom in the Honda section, the clock under a minute now and he's still looking for his first time lap. David Constable Barry holds on to P1 with a 144.218, currently through Swan Corner as practice heads towards its conclusion. Sten Wallstrom in turn 11, the clock practically at zero now and he's still yet to get a time registered.
That's tough, trying to string together a clean lap with only seconds left. It takes everything to the absolute limit.
And we have a crash. Joel Lemrick into the barriers at high speed, collision registered at over 208 km/h.
Wow, that's a big impact into the wall. You feel every bit of that at that speed.
Sten Wallstrom registers his first time, a 146.034 puts him into P5, currently navigating the southern loop with 38 seconds remaining. Just under 3 minutes left in this practice session now, things really winding down.
This final phase is crucial for understanding tire degradation over a full run, getting that last feel for the car.
Alright, qualifying about to get underway here at the magnificent Phillip Island circuit. Quite breezy out there with a 14-knot wind across the track. Qualifying is well and truly underway now, and Greg Sabo is currently circulating down the Gardner Straight, still searching for his first time lap.
Only a few minutes on the clock for this session, so every lap is absolutely crucial now. You need to find that rhythm straight away.
Further around the lap, John Boontock is navigating the southern loop, still waiting for his first time to appear on the screens with just over 4 minutes of this session remaining.
Every second counts now. You need clear air and a perfect sector through here to set yourself up for the rest of the lap on these short runs.
And Jasper Greenwood is heading into the quick Honda section, no time on the board yet for him with the clock winding down under 4 minutes. Sten Wallstrom now through the challenging Haste corner, yet to register a time lap in this short qualifying blast. Back with Greg Sabo on the Gardner Straight, still working to get his first competitive lap in with just over 3 minutes left in this session.
He needs to nail this lap. The pressure is really on now to find some clear track and hook it all together before the flag.
Greg Sabo finally registers a lap time. A 1:44.501 puts him straight into second position on the leaderboard with just over a minute remaining. Mac McFarquhar down the Gardner Straight now, currently 6th with a 1 minute 44 seconds and 6 milliseconds, and that delta is showing negative, just a tiny margin but faster than his best.
You have to push right to the limit on these last runs. Finding even 100th is crucial when it's this tight at the top.
Ryan Lim heading towards the line, currently 14th, his delta is slightly positive, looks like it might be just outside his best on this run.
Even a small gain through the final sector can make the difference between a place or two on the grid. You carry so much speed onto that straight.
Oh, Mac McFarquhar has gone into the barriers. Looks like a low-speed impact there, around 16 kilometers an hour.
That is not where you want to make a mistake. Even a small touch can pitch you off the track in that section.
David Constable Barry currently sitting 4th, his delta showing green by over a tenth, pushing hard as qualifying ticks down to its final few seconds. David Constable Barry improves his time. A 1:44.047 promotes him to third position, a great lap under pressure. Elliot Norton on his final run, currently P4 with a 1:44.057, coming onto the Gardner Straight now, and his delta is showing a couple of hundredths positive. Joel Lemrick heading towards the line, currently 6th, his delta is just slightly negative, could be a marginal improvement here.
These final seconds are critical, finding even that small gain on the straight could jump you up the order.
Jasper Greenwood still without a time lap and is on the main straight now, cutting it very fine indeed. Whoa, Joel Lemrick into the barriers. That was a heavy impact at over 100 kilometers an hour. Welcome everyone to Phillip Island. The engines are revving and we are moments away from the green flag.
That build-up on the grid, the tension is incredible, you can feel it even from here. On the front row, P3 for David Constable Barry, the English driver in the Pro-Am Mini Cooper. Starting third here is a good spot, you get a clear view into turn 1 but are protected from any pole position drama.
Just behind, in P4, it's another UK driver, Elliot Norton in the Pro-Am Mini.
Two Pro-Am runners side by side on the grid, that's going to be an interesting battle straight away.
Down in 5th spot, the Pro-Class driver from the Netherlands, Martin Mol. And rounding out the top 6 starters, Joel Lemrick from Italy in the AM-Class entry. Further down the grid, P7 occupied by Daniel Kosic, the Hungarian driver in the AM-Class.
It's always tough starting mid-pack, you need to be aggressive but smart in those opening laps.
The grid continues with another UK driver in P8, Jareth Hallam in the AM-Class Mini.
These AM drivers are really mixing it up the grid today, shows the depth of the field.
Starting from 9th position, Greg Sabo from Italy, another AM-Class competitor. Rounding out the top 10 on the grid, Bart van de Sande from the Netherlands, a Pro-Class driver.
A pro driver down in P10, he's going to have work to do immediately if he wants to challenge.
Further back, in P11, it's Jasper Greenwood from the UK. Starting from 12th position, Chris Stokes from England in the Pro-Am Mini.
Down in P12, Chris will need a good start and maybe a bit of luck to make progress quickly.
P13 belongs to Mac McFarquhar from the United Kingdom, a Pro-Class driver. Just behind, in 14th, Neil Constable Barry, another driver from the UK, competing in the AM-Class. Starting from 15th position, Phil Bodkin from England, in the AM-Class.
These guys at the back of the grid have the hardest job, finding clean air and making up positions without taking risks.
P16 on the grid is occupied by Josh Mitchell from Italy, an M-Class driver.
You see a lot of action in the first lap with cars starting this far back, everyone wants to gain ground.
Further back still, P17, Dominic Fovard from the United Kingdom in the Pro-Am Mini. Starting from P18, John Boontakis from Greece, competing in the AM-Class.
Every position counts on the grid, even P18 means you're ahead of someone.
P19 is Sten Wallstrom, competing in the AM-Class.
The backmarkers will be relying on consistency and hoping for opportunities ahead.
And the lights are out, we are go at Phillip Island.
Instant acceleration, everyone is fighting for that first corner.
Trouble early on, Daniel Kosic and Jareth Hallam have made contact.
Yeah, right in the middle of the pack there, sometimes you just get squeezed.
On lap 1, Jimmy Lindo holds onto that second position where he started.
Holding station like that in the opening lap, that's a strong start, avoids the chaos.
Jimmy Lindo maintains that second spot as the first lap continues. More contact, this time it's Joel Lemrick and Greg Sabo coming together.
Early lap jostling, sometimes just a little touch is enough to upset the car.
Chris Stokes makes up a spot on lap 1, now running in 11th position. Chris Stokes continues to move forward, now into P11 on the opening lap.
Picking up positions early like that is key, gives you a better opportunity later in the race.
We have another incident. Phil Bodkin and John Buntakis have made contact.
That looked like a racing incident, a moment of misjudgment perhaps.
Jareth Hallam has dropped down the order on this first lap, now running in 14th place. A tough opening lap for Jareth Hallam, losing several places and now in 14th position. Still focused on Jareth Hallam, who has now dropped further back to 18th, with Dominic Fovard 5 seconds ahead in P13. Trouble for Chris Stokes and Mac McFarquhar, they've made contact.
Yeah, just a little touch. Sometimes that's all it takes to put a car sideways.
We're on board now with Jasper Greenwood in P9, right on the gearbox of Mac McFarquhar, just a tenth of a second between them on this first lap. Looking at Jasper Greenwood now, he's dropped back to 10th place. The gap to Mac McFarquhar, now in 7th, has stretched to nearly 4 seconds. More drama out on track. Greg Sabo involved in another incident, this time with Ryan Lim.
That was a heavier hit. You never want to see contact like that, especially at speed.
We focus now on Bart van de Sande, running in 6th and right on the tail of Daniel Kosic, just 2/10 separating them. Contact out on track. Elliot Norton and Dominic Fovard have come together. Bart van de Sande still right there in P6, less than 3/10 behind Daniel Kosic for 5th. Bart van de Sande remains in P6, but the gap to Daniel Kosic ahead in 5th has opened up slightly to half a second. Well, Sky, that opening handful of laps certainly hasn't been quiet, has it?
Not at all. How? It's exactly what you expect when everyone is trying to gain 10 places in the first 2 corners.
We've seen contact in several places, particularly in that mid-pack battle.
Yeah, those early laps are chaotic. You're surrounded by cars, trying to find a gap. It takes real focus and courage.
The drivers are settling into a rhythm now, starting to see some consistent lap times appear.
Absolutely, you get past that initial fight, then it's about managing your pace and looking after the tires, especially on a circuit like this.
Phillip Island is always a challenge, fast and flowing but very demanding.
It really tests you. High commitment corners requires a lot of confidence in the car and in yourself.
Plenty of racing left though, 9 minutes plus that extra lap.
That's still enough time for strategies to play out and mistakes to happen.
We've got battles up and down the field.
Every position matters out there.
We join Neil Constable Barry now in 11th place, posting a 1 minute 48 seconds and 6 milliseconds on his last lap, just 3/10 ahead of Jareth Hallam.
That's a nice clean lap time there and a good buffer to manage against the car behind.
Contact between Elliot Norton and Dominic Fovard. This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Van de Sande will need to keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
This is where experience comes into play. Daniel Kosic has been in this position before and knows how to defend their position. But Bart van de Sande is hungry for success and won't give up easily. Will we see a clash of the titans?
More contact on track. Elliot Norton and Dominic Fovard have come together again.
Yeah, they can't seem to avoid each other out there.
We're with Bart van de Sande now, holding P6, just half a second behind Daniel Kosic, running a 1 minute 45 seconds and 3 milliseconds lap. Drama near the front. Jimmy Lindo and Martin Mull have made contact. We're riding on board with Bart van de Sande in P6 through Southern Loop, closing the gap to Daniel Kosic ahead, just 3/10 now after a 1 minute 44 seconds and 5 milliseconds lap. Bart van de Sande has made the move. He's past Daniel Kosic and into 5th position. Jimmy Lindo and Martin Mull are involved in contact once more.
That looked a bit more significant this time.
We look now at Jasper Greenwood down in P14, chasing Greg Sabo for 13th, just a tenth of a second between them.
That's a close fight down there. Every tenth counts when you're trying to make up ground.
Still watching Jasper Greenwood in 14th, the gap to Greg Sabo ahead in 13th has stretched slightly to 2 tenths. Focus is now on Neil Constable Barry in 11th, closing on Dominic Fovard for 10th, 3 tenths separating them. Neil Constable Barry is now even closer to Dominic Fovard ahead in 10th, the gap down to just 2 tenths. Jasper Greenwood continues in P14 down the Gardner Straight, chasing Greg Sabo in 13th, the gap now 3 tenths after a 1 minute 48 seconds and 7 milliseconds lap. Jasper Greenwood is still holding P14, but he's closed the gap to Greg Sabo in 13th once again. It's down to just 2 tenths. Neil Constable Barry continues to chase Dominic Fovard for P10, running a quick 1 minute 44 seconds and 4 milliseconds, and the gap is still 2 tenths. We've got contact between Mac McFarquhar and Bart Van de Sande out on track. Jasper Greenwood still in P14 on lap 4, just 2 tenths behind Greg Sabo in 13th, last lap a 1 minute 48 seconds and 2 milliseconds. Jasper Greenwood has made the move, now up to 13th position, right on the tail of Greg Sabo, the gap just 1 tenth.
That's how you make up ground, finding a way past and then immediately challenging the next car. It's relentless.
We're now focused on Bart Van de Sande in 5th place, just 2 tenths behind Martin Hull in 4th, running in the 144S.
That's a very close battle. You're constantly thinking about your braking points and exit speed when you're that close to the car ahead.
Bart Van de Sande holds 5th position, still just 2 tenths separating him from 4th.
That battle for P4 is incredibly tight, neither driver giving an inch at the moment.
We check in with Mac McFarquhar now in 15th, right behind Chris Stokes for P14, just 2 tenths between them.
After that earlier contact, they're both still pushing hard to recover positions.
Mac McFarquhar still holds P15, just 2 tenths behind Chris Stokes in 14th. Bart Van de Sande has moved up another spot, now into 4th position and chasing Martin Mull for P3, 3 tenths the gap. Bart Van de Sande is closing on Martin Mull for 3rd, the gap down to 2 tenths now.
He's really on a charge here, consistent laps paying off. This is a great fight for the podium.
We look now at Joel Lemrick in 7th place, just 3 tenths behind Elliot Norton for 6th.
Another close battle developing. These drivers are really pushing each other.
Joel Lemrick has closed right up to Elliot Norton in P6, the gap is down to just a tenth.
He's sniffing the gearbox now, looking for a way past. You have to be decisive at this point.
Still watching Mac McFarquhar in P15, he's closed the gap to Chris Stokes ahead in 14th, just a tenth now. Contact between Joel Lemrick and Elliot Norton. We now follow Jimmy Lindo in 5th place, 7 tenths behind Bart Van de Sande for 4th position.
He's finding some pace now, trying to reel in that gap.
Jimmy Lindo is still holding 5th place. The gap to Bart van de Sande ahead remains at 7 tenths. Another incident involving Chris Stokes and Mac McFarquhar. We see Mac McFarquhar now in P15 through the Honda section, 4 tenths behind Chris Stokes for 14th, running in the 144S.
They've been locked in a battle all race, and despite the contact, they're still pushing each other.
Mac McFarquhar has closed the gap to Chris Stokes once again, down to just 2 tenths now.
This is a determined drive to recover. He's right back with him.
Joel Lemrick in 7th place, 3 tenths adrift of Elliot Norton in 6th. More drama out on track. Greg Sabo and Neil Constable Barry have made contact. We're still with Mac McFarquhar in P15, still just 2 tenths behind Chris Stokes for 14th position.
This battle for P14 is just relentless. They're glued together lap after lap.
And once again, Chris Stokes and Mac McFarquhar have made contact.
They just can't stay away from each other out there. That battle has been incredibly intense all race.
We're riding with Joel Lemrick in P7 through the Southern Loop, closing on Elliot Norton for 6th, just 2 tenths separating them after a 1 minute 44 seconds and 6 milliseconds last lap.
Another tight battle here. Joel is putting the pressure on, looking very strong through this section.
Joel Lemrick makes the pass. He's into 6th position, now 4 tenths ahead of Elliot Norton. We're focused on Chris Stokes now in 15th place on lap 7, 2 tenths behind Mac McFarquhar in 14th.
These two are still locked together, both finding good pace now in the 144S.
Chris Stokes remains in P15. The gap to Mac McFarquhar ahead in 14th has opened up slightly to 4 tenths. We see the leader, Tim Weller, heading towards the checkered flag, just 20 seconds away, with a commanding 6.3 second lead over Daniel Kosic.
What a dominant performance. That's a huge gap to have in the closing moments of a race.
Tim Weller crosses the line, and takes the checkered flag. Here comes the winner.
From pole position to the victory, that's the perfect race, absolutely brilliant.
Daniel Kosic comes across the line to secure 2nd place.
Starting P7 and finishing 2nd, that's a fantastic recovery drive after the early drama.
Late drama for Bart van de Sande. He's made heavy contact with the barriers.
Oh, that's a big hit. You never want to see a car go in like that.
Martin Moll takes the checkered flag to finish in 3rd position. Bart van de Sande crosses the line in 4th position.
Considering the action we saw him involved in, that's a strong finish.
Jimmy Lindo finishes the race in 5th place.
Another driver who had some moments out there but brings it home.
Joel Lemrick takes 6th position.
He fought hard throughout that race.
And Elliot Norton completes the top 7 finishers.
P7 for him, a good recovery after some earlier contact.
Dominic Fovard crosses the line in 8th.
A solid finish there after some tussles.
David Constable Barry comes home in 9th place.
He started P3, maybe not the result he wanted, but he finished.
Jareth Hallam finishes in 10th.
He had a really tough start, good to see him in the top 10.
And Greg Sabo takes 11th position.
He also had some incidents but kept going.
Neil Constable Barry comes across the line in 12th position. Jasper Greenwood finishes the race in 13th place. Mac McFarquhar takes the checkered flag in 14th. And Chris Stokes finishes in 15th position. Alright, the tension is palpable here at Phillip Island, just moments away from the green flag with a whisper of a wind at just 1 km/h.
You can feel that energy on the grid, the anticipation. Those final moments before the lights go out always gave me goosebumps.
And starting from 3rd place today, it's Sten Wallstrom in the Mini Cooper JCW Challenge, a strong showing for the AM-class driver.
That's a fantastic starting position for him. P3 is right in the thick of it going into turn 1, especially for an AM driver mixing it with the Pro-Ams.
Just behind Wallstrom in 4th, another AM-class competitor, Phil Bodkin, lining up his Mini Cooper hoping for a strong start. And here's Chris Stokes, the Pro-Am driver, starting 5th in his Mini Cooper, looking to make inroads on the cars ahead early on. Mac McFarquhar, a Pro-Class driver, starts from 6th today, definitely a driver who will be aiming to move forward through the field quickly. Further back on the grid, it's Jasper Greenwood lining up in 7th position. And in 8th spot, we have Neil Constable Barry, another of the AM-Class drivers on the grid today. Greg Sabo takes his place on the 9th spot of the grid, representing Italy in the AM-Class.
Starting from P9, you have a lot of cars ahead to pick your way through. It requires patience in the early laps but can also keep you out of the very first lap melees.
Rounding out the top 10, Jareth Hallam in his Mini Cooper, an AM-Class driver from the UK.
That's the grid taking shape then, a real mix of classes in the top 10. The first lap is going to be fascinating to see how everyone settles in.
Just outside the top 10, in 11th position, David Constable Barry, a Pro-Am driver looking to make up ground.
Being just outside the top 10 means you often get a clearer run into the first corner, less risk of getting squeezed, which can be an advantage.
Further down the grid, it's Elliot Norton in 13th place, a Pro-Am driver preparing for the start.
Starting in P13, you're definitely looking to find a rhythm early and try to tag onto the back of the pack ahead.
Joel Lemerick from Italy is in 14th position, another AM-Class driver on the grid.
It's a long race, starting from P14 isn't the end of the world, consistency is key from there.
And in 15th position, we have Jimmy Lindo, an AM-Class driver. Bart van de Sande, a Pro-Class driver, starts from 16th place, a long way back for a driver of his caliber.
That's a tough place to start for Bart. P16 means he has a serious amount of work to do if he wants to challenge for the podium today. I've had races where I've started that far back. It's all about damage limitation and picking your moments to overtake.
Just behind Van de Sande, another pro driver, Martin Cole from the Netherlands, in 17th position.
Two pro drivers starting right next to each other at the back, P16 and P17. You can bet they'll be trying to help each other through the pack or maybe even battling each other if they can't find clear air.
And the lights are out. We are underway at Phillip Island.
Green flag. Everyone's jostling for position. That initial burst of acceleration off the line is everything in these first few meters.
Contact. Phil Bodkin and Mac McFarquhar have come together, an incident involving both drivers. Martin Mole making up ground on the first lap. He's up to 16th position now.
Positive start for him, clawing back places straight away. When you're starting P17, getting any position back early is a good sign, just chipping away.
Further contact down the field. Jareth Hallam and Bart van de Sande involved in an incident.
That's two cars involved there. You never want to see that on the opening lap. Hopefully, they can both continue without significant damage.
Incredible start from Joel Lemerick. He's flown up the order from 14th to 6th place on this opening lap. Look at Joel Lemerick, an absolutely storming first lap. He's jumped from 14th all the way up to 6th.
Wow, P14 to P6 in one lap is seriously impressive. That requires commitment and finding the gaps where others don't. You have to be decisive off the line and through those first few corners.
Incident involving Martin Mole and Dominic Fobart. They've made contact out on track. Bart van de Sande gaining ground rapidly on the first lap. He's up 6 positions, now running in 10th place.
That's a solid recovery drive already from Bart. Making up that many places on the opening lap is crucial. It puts him back in contention quicker. Finding that rhythm straight away after starting so far back is key.
Bart van de Sande continues his charge. He's into 9th now, and remarkably, Jasper Greenwood, who started ahead, is way back in 20th, over 14 seconds behind. A slight drop back for Bart van de Sande. He's now P10, but the gap to Jasper Greenwood behind in 20th has grown even larger, now over 17 seconds. Contact between Joel Lemerick and Daniel Kosic. They've come together out on the circuit. We're on board now with Jimmy Lindo in 11th place on the first lap, just a tenth of a second behind Bart van de Sande in 10th.
That's incredibly close, P11 right on the gearbox of P10. He's completing his first full lap time now and trying to stay hooked onto the car ahead, crucial in these opening stages.
Jimmy Lindo is absolutely glued to the back of Bart van de Sande now. The gap is effectively zero between P11 and P10. We switch focus to Daniel Kosic now, running in 6th place, and look who's right in front. Joel Lemrick in 5th.
Less than a tenth of a second between them, absolutely nose to tail. And remember, these two were just involved in an incident a few moments ago. You can feel the intensity from the cockpit when you're that close after contact.
Another incident out on track, Elliot Norton and Dominic Fovarg have made contact.
They've come together down there, hopefully, it was just a light tap and they can both press on.
We're riding with Greg Sabo now, 8th place down the Gardner Straight, and look how close Martin Mole is right behind him in 9th, just a tenth separates them. Greg Sabo moves up a spot into 7th position, but still has Martin Mole right on his tail in 9th, the gap remaining minimal. Greg Sabo has dropped back to 9th place, and it's Martin Mole who's now ahead of him in 7th, the gap opening slightly to 4/10 of a second. We're now riding with Daniel Kosic on lap 2, running in 6th position and still just 2/10 of a second behind Joel Lemrick in 5th.
That's a good lap time from him to be able to stick right there, 1:45.591. Being that close for multiple laps requires real concentration, you're looking for any tiny mistake from the car ahead.
Another incident on track, Greg Sabo and Mac McFarquhar have come together in a collision.
Two cars involved there, that's unfortunate contact between them. Hopefully, they're both able to continue running.
We jump on board now with Josh Mitchell, running in 2nd position on lap 2, absolutely hounding the leader, Chris Stokes, the gap just a tenth of a second.
This is where the pressure really builds, sitting just behind the leader like that. You can see he's pushing, that 1:44.752 is a strong lap, he's right there, looking for any opportunity.
More drama out on track, Mac McFarquhar and Martin Mole involved in a collision.
That's two drivers making contact, seems like things are still pretty intense throughout the field.
We ride with Josh Mitchell now on lap 2 through Swan Corner, still right behind leader Chris Stokes, the gap just stretching slightly to 2/10 of a second.
That's a classic Phillip Island battle, holding onto the car ahead through these fast corners. Being that close means you have to be super precise, hoping they make a tiny error you can capitalize on.
Contact for John Buntakis, he's gone into the barriers. We're on board now with Jareth Hallam on lap 3, running in 13th place, chasing down Tim Weller in 12th, the gap just 1/10 of a second.
That's a good lap time from him to be able to close right up, 1:45.066. Being that close requires focusing on every corner, trying to find a way past.
Jareth Hallam makes the move. He's up to 12th position now, getting past Tim Weller, who is immediately right back on his tail. We're riding with Daniel Kosic now on lap 3, running in 8th place and closing on Mac McFarquhar in 7th. The gap is 2/10 of a second.
That's a great lap time, 1:44.067, seriously quick pace to be able to stick with the car ahead like that. He's definitely on a charge.
Daniel Kosic remains in 8th place, but the gap to Mac McFarquhar ahead in 7th has just opened up slightly to 3/10.
That small gap change could be down to a single corner or section, maybe Mac just got a slightly better exit. He'll need to close that back down quickly.
Contact between the leaders, Josh Mitchell and Chris Stokes have come together. We're riding with Bart van de Sande now in 10th through Swan Corner on lap 3, just 2/10 behind Greg Sabo in 9th, posting a 1:45.228 on that last lap. Bart van de Sande gains another spot. He's into 9th place now, right on the gearbox of Greg Sabo in 8th, the gap is just a tenth of a second. Incident out on track, Joel Lemrick and Phil Botkin have made contact.
That's another coming together, seems like quite a few drivers are finding each other out there today.
We're on board with Elliot Norton now, P13 on lap 4 through the southern loop, right on the bumper of Neil Constable Barry in 12th, just a tenth between them.
He's putting in good lap times, his best is a 1:44.185, showing he has the pace to challenge. Being that close through a fast section like Southern Loop takes a lot of commitment.
Elliot Norton makes the pass. He's up into 12th position now, getting ahead of Neil Constable Barry, and they are still absolutely side by side with a 0 gap. Contact between Tim Weller and Josh Mitchell, they've come together out on track. We're riding with Greg Sabo now, running 7th on lap 4, just 2 tenths behind Bart van de Sonde in 6th after a 1:45.065 last lap. Greg Sabo remains in 7th place, still holding a 2-tenth gap to Bart van de Sonde ahead in 6th. Well, Sky, we've certainly seen a lot of action in these opening laps. It feels like everyone is absolutely on the limit right from the start.
It does look intense out there. The pressure is immense in the first few laps, everyone is trying to gain every possible position. You're constantly aware of cars all around you.
We've seen quite a few incidents already, hasn't that perhaps disrupted the rhythm for some?
It definitely can. If you're involved in contact, even a light one, it can break your concentration, maybe cause a little damage you're not aware of immediately. Plus, if you see others spinning, it makes you just a tiny bit more cautious for a moment.
And we've had some great battles throughout the field, not just at the very front. Those tight gaps we're seeing suggest the cars are very evenly matched.
They really are. When you're bumper to bumper like that, it comes down to bravery, precise car placement, and hitting your marks perfectly lap after lap. It's mentally draining but hugely exciting.
Incident out on track, Jareth Hallam and Martin Mull have made contact.
They've come together there, another incident between two cars.
We join Neil Constable Barry in 10th place on lap 5, 3 tenths behind Josh Mitchell in 9th, posting a 1:46.665 last lap. Neil Constable Barry closes the gap slightly to Josh Mitchell ahead. It's down to 2 tenths between P10 and P9. We're riding with Joel Lemrick now at Lukey Heights on lap 5, running 7th and right on the tail of Greg Sabo in 6th, the gap just 1/10 of a second. He did a 1:46.162 on that last lap.
Being that close through Lukey Heights requires absolute bravery, you're on the limit there. He's got the pace, his best lap is a 1:44.228, so he knows he can go quicker and will be looking for a way past.
Joel Lemrick makes the move. He's into 6th position now, getting ahead of Greg Sabo, pulling out a 2/10 gap immediately. We're riding with Elliot Norton now, P8 down the Gardner Straight on lap 6, just 2 tenths behind Greg Sabo in 7th, posting a 1:45.183 on that last lap. Elliot Norton remains in 8th place, the gap to Greg Sabo ahead in 7th stretching slightly to 3 tenths. We're now on board with Greg Sabo, P7 through Stoner Corner on lap 6, chasing Joel Lemrick in 6th, the gap just a tenth after a 1:47.708 last lap.
Being that close through a fast corner like Stoner is tricky, you lose some aero effect following so closely. That last lap time was a bit slower than his best, he'll want to pick up the pace to stay with him.
We ride with Neil Constable Barry in 10th on lap 6, back to just a tenth behind Josh Mitchell in 9th after a 1:45.318 last lap. Neil Constable Barry has dropped back a spot to 11th and the gap to Josh Mitchell ahead in 9th has opened up to 6 tenths. Neil Constable Barry is back up to 10th place, but the gap to Josh Mitchell just ahead in 9th has edged out further to 7 tenths of a second. We switch on board to Tim Weller in 11th place on lap 6, just 2 tenths behind Neil Constable Barry in 10th after a 1:49.208 last lap. Tim Weller has closed the gap to Neil Constable Barry ahead and 10th right back down to just a tenth of a second. We're on board with Martin Mole now on lap 7, down in 15th place but closing on Jareth Hallam in 14th. The gap just 3/10 after a 144.162 last lap.
He's still pushing hard trying to make up ground from that P17 start. That 144.162 shows the pace is there. He's just got to find a way past this group of cars.
Martin Mole moves up a spot into 14th, right onto the tail of Jareth Hallam in 13th, the gap down to just a tenth.
That's the pro driver showing his class, picking off positions. He's right there now, looking for the opportunity to get ahead.
We're riding with Jareth Hallam now, P14 on lap 7, with Martin Mole right on his tail in 13th. The gap just 3/10 after a 144.656 last lap.
When you're being hunted down like that, P14 with someone just behind, you're constantly defending, trying to break their toe. That 144 lap time shows he's pushing, but he needs to be perfect.
Incident involving Tim Weller and Neil Constable Barry. They've made contact out on track. We switch to the leader, Chris Stokes. He's heading towards the finish line here at Phillip Island, just 20 seconds away from the checkered flag, with Phil Botkin his closest challenger over 2 seconds back.
This is it, those final moments when you're in the lead and you know you're close. Every corner feels critical, every lap feels like an eternity, you just want to see that checkered flag.
And Chris Stokes crosses the line. He wins the race here at Phillip Island, a brilliant drive from 5th on the grid. Phil Botkin comes across the line now to take 2nd place, a strong result for him starting from 4th.
2nd place is a fantastic finish, especially from P4. He put in a solid drive throughout that race.
And David Constable Barry takes 3rd position, a superb drive from down in 11th on the grid to make it onto the podium. And here come the next finishers. Daniel Kosic takes 4th, Bart van de Sande finishes 5th, Joel Lemrick is 6th, and Elliot Norden secures 7th position.
Some really strong drives there to finish high up, especially Bart van de Sande from P16, Joel Lemrick from P14, and Elliot Norden from P13. That shows great pace and racecraft to climb so many places.
The cars continue to stream across the line. Josh Mitchell takes 8th, Tim Weller is 9th, Dominic Fovard finishes 10th, and Neil Constable Barry comes home in 11th.
Finishing in these positions still requires immense effort, battling right up to the flag. Every place matters in a competitive field like this.
And wrapping up the main pack, Mac McFarquhar finishes 12th, Martin Mole is 13th, Jareth Hallam takes 14th, and Greg Sabo comes home in 15th place.
A tough race for some of those towards the back, but they all brought the cars home. Every lap completed is valuable.
Completing the finishers we have Ryan Lim in 16th, Jasper Greenwood in 17th, and Sten Wallstrom finishes 18th.